Yeah, so today I will take you through one of the most crucial and essential topics, which is total quality management in enhancing consumer satisfaction. So as we all know, I think in this modern age, we have an environment whereby we are to satisfy the consumer needs through the production process. And this ensures or demands that we produce goods and services that meet a certain criteria of quality, as well as abide by certain standards. So I'll take you through the first slide, which is titled Quality Management. The next slide. So quality management entails a method in which all the activities necessary to design, develop, implementation of a product and services are effective as well as efficient. So quality management deals with all the necessary activities. So what do we need for us to produce a product? Or what do we need for us to produce a particular service? And in all those methods or in all those activities, are we being effective? Are we being efficient? So effective, we're talking about being able to reach our targets. And efficiency, we're talking about the methodology that we do use. Are we able to utilize, less resources to attain the target amount of product or target quantities, right? So what are the activities? And we can also agree to say, when it comes to production, we have a number of stages of production. And in all those stages, we are supposed to meet, or we are supposed to have quality standards or quality settings for us to reach the intended goal. So quality management deals with all the necessary activities for us to produce a particular product or a particular service. So it is possible for us to have a product that is of a certain quality, and at the same time to have a service that is of a certain quality and a certain standard. So this is what we'll be looking at today. So in the next slide, we'll look at some of the important terms. So the first important term is quality improvement. So with quality improvement, we must agree to say the consumer's needs or wants are ever changing, right? So we find that what consumers want today and tomorrow will be different. Hence, creating a room for improvement. What can we add on to our set products? Or what can we add on to our set services? For example, you look at the higher learning institutions, right? The higher learning institutions, one of the reasons why they're there is to cater for the problems or to provide solutions to the current, whether economy, or to improve our country, or to improve our standards of living. So whenever we are coming up with maybe programs or courses, we try to bridge the gap that is there in our own countries or in the global sphere. So that's an example of quality improvement. Where can we improve? What can we do to better meet the needs of the consumers? And at the same time, we talk about quality control. How do we maintain the integrity of the process, right? For us to have a stable outcome. What can we do? Right? What can we do to ensure that we're meeting the right standards? And also the assurance, quality assurance. This refers to the product that we make or the service that we produce will meet the intended purpose. Are we going to be able to satisfy the outgrowing needs or demands? So these are some of the important terms: quality improvement, quality control, and quality assurance. And in the next slide, I think we'll look at the need. Why do we need quality? Why do we need quality? So the first and foremost reason is customer satisfaction, right? So we can agree to say when it comes to producing a good or a product or a service, the first goal is to satisfy the customer. We have to meet the needs of the customer. What does the customer want? What is he looking for, right? So if we have quality products, then we can easily satisfy what the customer is looking for. So the first need is to satisfy the customer. And also in a competitive world, we need quality to have or to gain a competitive advantage over our competitors, right? So you find that in an industry, you have a number of companies that are producing a similar product. So how do you gain competitive advantage? So one of the ways in which one can gain competitive advantage is through quality. You produce goods of a certain quality in comparison of those of your competitors. And in the next slide, we'll look at the reputation as well as the brand image. So reputation and brand image. So you can agree with me to say, when it comes to one of the most leading mobile phone companies, whether Samsung or Apple, you know, they have instilled a certain brand image. And if someone were to ask you to say about Samsung products, you tell them. And the same goes for Apple products, right? So quality also helps to boost or to create a positive image, a very good reputation for the organization or for the companies. And this later on also builds a very loyal consumer base, a very loyal consumer base. And the last one is risk management. So in every country, you have quality management boards. So for example, here in Malawi, we have the Malawi Bureau of Standards, which monitors the quality of said products. So in a scenario whereby you have products that are not of a set quality or a set standard, then that product is taken out of the market by the Malawi Bureau of Standards. So if you're producing poor quality products, you have chances of meeting legal liabilities or safety hazards, or you can even damage your reputation. So as a risk management tool, you can produce high-level quality products to ensure that you avoid legal liabilities, you don't provide hazards to consumers, as well as to manage or to boost your company's reputation. So in the upcoming slide, I'll take you through the evolution of quality. Where did it all begin? What happened? So in the next slide, we talk about the evolution of quality. The evolution of quality. So in the 20th century, we had the concept of producing goods. And once you produce those goods, the supervisors or people in charge were to look or to identify products that had defects, right? So for example, if you produce 10,000 units, and out of those units, which ones have defects or have shortfalls? And you try to identify those shortfalls. And maybe you also try to correct those defects after production. So that was the first stages of quality management. And later on, we had the issues of quality assurance. So quality assurance says it is better to prevent defects other than to detect them, right? So it's better to say, before we produce, what can we do for us to reduce the issues of defects? What can we do so that you don't waste raw materials and other valuable resources of the organization? And in the next slide, we look at the concept of total quality management. So total quality management encompasses 3 concepts. You talk about quality control, you talk about quality assurance, as well as continuous improvement, right? So it brings about all those concepts from the initial stages of the evolution till now. And later on, you have the concept of continuous improvement. what can we do to better improve our products? What can we do to better satisfy the needs of the customer? And under this concept, you talk about Kaizen, which talks about continuous improvement. So this is the basic evolution of quality, from quality control to quality assurance, to total quality management, as well as continuous improvement. And also you talk about the integration of technologies. So in the next slide, you see the integration of technologies. So this deals with the issues of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and how they have also contributed in limiting or improving quality in our products. So with the use of technology, we're able now to come up with best suited methodologies of producing goods, producing services, increasing quality, and also removing the shortfalls of the said products as well as services. So in the next slide, I think that's simply defining quality. What is quality? So I think we can clearly see. So for example, according to Robert, the last point, it says quality is the degree of excellence at an acceptable price, controlled viability at an acceptable cost. So if you're producing a product, it should be at an acceptable price, as well as to you as a producer, the cost should be bearable, right? It should be bearable as well. So we'll look at the dimensions of a product, dimensions of a product. So in the next slide, I think you can move to the next slide, please. So the dimensions of a product. What are the characteristics that highlight to say a product is of a certain quality? What are some of the entailments that we can observe to say, I think this product is of a certain quality? So in the next slide, I think we have a table that highlights some of the attributes of our quality products. So we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so in the next slide, we look at the dimensions of our products, dimensions of a product's quality. So for example, you talk about performance. Is the product able to perform in accordance with its expectations or the intended outcome? So for example, if you look at laptops, they have different performances. So is your product able to perform in accordance with the specifications that you made it for? The features, does it have the intended features? Is it reliable? Does it conform? Is it durable? You talk about the service, the speed. You talk about how the product feels, how the product looks. And also you talk about the perceived quality. For example, the brand name. So these are some of the dimensions of a high quality product: its performance, its features, and everything else that has been detailed there. And also, we also look at the dimensions of service, dimensions of a service quality, which comes in the next slide. So how do we know that the service is of a said quality? So you go straight to the table as well. We have another diagram for that. That's in the next slide as well. So for example, a service, is it reliable? So this goes to the service industries, telecommunications companies that provide mobile cell services. You talk about banks or medical schemes, they provide services. So how do we know that they're providing high quality services? A very good example could be, for example, you go to a restaurant and you want to order food and they take too much time and you say, that place has bad customer service, right? Because they're supposed to be highly responsive. So those in the service industries, the responsiveness matters because you're providing a service to help to best help cater the consumer needs and needs, right? So you quickly respond to the customer. And also in the service industry, you talk about empathy. You talk about empathy. How were you able to care for your clients? the customer care agents. How best can they care for their clients? And also, for you to provide a service, you need tangibles, physical facilities, right? So, for example, banks can have ATMs and so on. Assurance, you talk about knowledge and courtesy of the employees and the ability to inspire trust. Reliability, are you reliable to provide the promised service? So these are some of the aspects of the dimensions of service quality. If a service does not have one of these, then it means it lacks as far as quality is concerned. And again, in the next slide, we'll look at the core concepts of TQM. The core concepts of TQM. So I think we have already discussed some of the concepts. For example, customer satisfaction. What better ways can you satisfy the customer? So the customer is looking for high quality goods at an affordable price. But at the same time, we should also keep in mind that the producer has to do this at an affordable cost. So how best can you satisfy the customer? And the next slide, please. The next slide, please. So at the same time, despite having the customer satisfaction, we also have an internal customer satisfaction. So this goes within the organization. Within the organization, we also have a customer. So the first customer initially within the organization is the employees are to render a service to the employers. The employees are to render a service to the employers. So if we're to have quality in our products or services, it means also the employees are to be of a certain quality, a certain standard. They should know how to perform their duties, and they should be able to perform the tasks, because that is the reason why the employer employed the employees in a particular organization. So the first beneficiary of the employee services is the employer, because he's expecting them to perform at a certain rate, abiding to certain standards, as well as to provide goods or services as per agreed. And also we talk about the other concept, which is all work is a process. All work is a process, which is the next slide as well. Right, so all work is a process. So for us to produce goods and services, it's not dependent upon one individual or one person, but it's a process in general. You talk about the organization structures, you talk about teamwork, you talk about the collaboration between departments, you talk about all those, right? So for there to be a product or a service, it's due to the coordination of different departments, different skilled efforts from the employees of the organization. And in the next slides, it goes down to synergy in teamwork. The next slide as well. I think I've already talked about that, to say the efforts of combined, or the collaboration between individuals results into quality products. So for example, if one department is lacking, how can we produce quality products? How can we produce quality services? If, for example, management is not providing the funds, or if maybe we do not have skilled employees, or maybe we do not have the necessary machinery, so how can we work together to produce quality products? So a synergy in teamwork is also essential. And in the next slide, we'll look at people make quality. People make quality. So the quality of your employees determine the quality of your products. Do you have skilled individuals in your organization? Do they possess the right skills? Right? So the people in the organization are responsible for making quality products. So it is very essential to have high quality human capital in the organization. And also we talked about continuous improvement cycle. So how best are we improving our products? How best are we implementing ways to improve our services? So this can come whether internally or externally. Internally, what are we doing in regards to continuous improvement? Externally, what are we observing from the external environment to help us produce goods of better services and quality? And in the next slide, we'll look at some of the barriers that limit us from implementing a total quality management program in the organization. So what could hinder us from being able to provide services or goods that are of a certain quality? So I'll go straight to the next, to the first point, which is poor planning. Poor planning, which comes in the next slide. So poor planning, you talk about, you're supposed to plan. If you're to have quality products, how do you plan as an organization? How do you define your objective? Sometimes we may have the resources maybe, but maybe we do not have clear objectives. What is it that we want to achieve in the short term, in the long run, as well as in the middle term as well? What do we plan to achieve as an organization? What are we doing to achieve the set objectives, right? So we were not clear on the planning, as well as inadequate resource allocation. We are not allocating maybe resources properly, such as time or budgets. Maybe we do not even have the said resources. So that also in turn affects quality. And you also talk about the failures to identify the risks as well as challenges, right? So for every given task that we do, whether in production, whether in the service industry, we are also supposed to identify some of the risks. What are the risks of us implementing ABCD? What are the risks that are involved if we do this, or the challenges? Because if you quickly identify the risk as well as the challenges, then you can easily overcome them, right? And better satisfy your consumer needs or wants. And at the same time, you can also talk about, in the next slide, lack of management commitment. Lack of management commitment. So you can agree with me to say management is responsible for guiding the organization into the attainment of objectives and goals. So the management is responsible for directing or controlling the organization into achieving set goals. So if the management is not committed in ensuring that we have quality products or services, then we'll produce poor quality products. And that in turn can affect our reputation, as well as our brand, as well as our consumer satisfaction. So management commitment in terms of maybe resource allocation, is management willing to allocate resources? For example, is it time or budgets or money or personnel in total quality management initiatives? Are they willing to improve on quality? Is management willing to set a tone, right? And also, management also can also go about and deal with resistance to change, right? How does it concur? Is it in agreement with reducing or limiting the resistance to change? You know, sometimes when people in the organizations are used to doing things in a certain way or certain manner, you tend to have resistance, right? So what is management doing about all those core issues? And in the next slide, we'll talk about resistance from the workforce. Resistance from the workforce. So that is in the next slide. Resistance from workforce. So sometimes management may not be the problem, but the workforce, the initial workforce that is responsible for producing or providing a particular service. And sometimes the employees may fear change. They may fear change because maybe it's not comfortable to change. And, you know, and maybe sometimes we have routines of doing works or certain tasks. So fear of change can also result into resistance from the workforce. And at times the workforce may not fully understand, why do we need to have total quality management initiatives? So lack of the understanding can also affect quality in the organization. and also perceived threat to autonomy. Right, so you talk about the issues of collaboration, you talk about issues of teamwork. So employees may feel threatened to their autonomy or individual performance, hence they may resist as well. And also in the next slide, we'll look at the lack of proper training. Lack of proper training. So as I said, for you to have quality services, so for example, if you come to higher learning institutions in Malawi, the board that governs the criteria of higher learning institutions, they have given us a criteria to say a lecturer should have such qualifications, right? I mean, you said they're supposed to have a certain level of training for them to best carry out their activities or their duties properly. So for you to have quality products or quality services, you also talk about the training. Do the employees have the required training? If they do not, then that affects the whole initiative of trainings, of producing quality products. So they should have proper trainings. And they should also properly understand the principles, methodologies of TQM as well, total quality management. They should have abundance of skills and knowledge. Do they have the skills? Do they have the knowledge? And also, you should prepare the employees as well for the upcoming changes through the TQM initiatives. So the overview is proper training. Are the employees properly trained? Do they have the said qualifications? Or if they do not have, in that particular organization, what can you do? Can you provide training programs to best equip your employees? And sometimes you can also talk about refresher courses. You can have employees that underwent training, but due to the changes in the dynamics of whether the economy or the education sector, you're supposed to provide refresher courses to also better equip them for the task at hand. So proper training is also very, very essential. In the next slide, we talk about teamwork complacency, lack of innovation, right? You're supposed to create an environment whereby the employees feel they can become innovative, provide new ways of doing things, ways of dealing with certain problems. And also you talk about motivation. They should be well motivated to carry out activities or tasks or to perform at higher levels. And also you try to remove stagnation. Teams shouldn't be stagnant, they should progress, right? So you talk about team growth and development and so on. So giving them the agency to improve. What can they improve on? What can they do? Because the more your employees improve, the more quality also improves in the organization. And also another barrier in the next slide is using an off-the-shelf program. So it is possible to say you can have a program in your institution that better helps you with the issues of quality. So if you're using a product or a program that is not perfectly catered for your organization, you can also have limitations as far as to how you can increase on quality or better improve on quality. So what program are you using for, maybe with the softwares or whatever? What programs are you using for your organization as far as quality is concerned? So using an off-the-shelf program may not be best suited for your organization's interest, right? So better have a program that is catered for your organization, your functionality, your needs, and so on. So those are some of the common barriers that we have as far as total quality management is concerned, as well as far as quality is concerned in the organization, in regards to the product as well as to the service aspect. And in the next slide, I would like to share also some of the pioneers who contributed a lot in the field of quality management, from Deming to Joseph Joran. So if you go through the work, you'll be better enlightened as well to the issues of quality. What can you do to improve quality, whether in your learning institutions or whether in your productive circles and all those aspects. So you can go through all those books. They're very interesting, if I may say. In the next slide as well. So if you have time, you can go through such materials as well for your enlightenment. May we please go to the next slide? May we please go to the next slide? So in the next slide, we talk about the International Organization for Standardization. In short, we refer to it as ISO. So ISO is an international non-governmental organization that is made up of national standard bodies. So you can have standard bodies from all over the world that have formulated the ISO. So the ISO is responsible for coming up with standards for which organizations may follow in different regards. So for example, you have the ISO 9000, the ISO 9001. So these are simply standards or guidelines for which organizations can also follow. So this has brought about standardization globally as far as to organizations that follow set standards. And also it's, for example, for a company that is maybe a public company, it also creates confidence in the eyes of the stakeholders, shareholders, people who have an interest in the company. So you may also follow the ISO in regards to whatever industry or aspect you operate in as well. And in the next slide, we'll look at the quality circles. Quality circles. So quality circles, they're more of committees that are formed or that can be formed in the organization to ensure that you're able to meet problems that maybe affect quality, or you can also come up with ways to improve quality of products. And also, you can also facilitate high standards in the workplace. So you can form committees or you can form groups of employees in the organization that will be dedicated to ensuring that we have quality in the organization. So you find that a number of organizations have a quality department that is formed of different personnel that are responsible for ensuring that we abide to certain standards, we follow certain rules and certain guidelines. So these quality circles have a number of objectives. We will see in the next slides. They have a number of objectives. So for example, you talk about problem solving. Problem solving, they solve problems in the organization. So for example, you talk about identify issues of quality or defects or process inefficiencies. In which aspect is our process inefficient and what can we do? And also spearhead continuous improvement. So where can we improve? We give the employees ownership as far as quality is concerned. You talk about skill development, right? So how can we develop the skills? So they're also part and parcel of ensuring that we have skill development in the organization. Because if we have skill development, then we can easily solve problems, we can improve communication, and the teamwork skills are highlighted. And they also ensure that we have increased employee engagement. How can we better engage the employees in decision making? Because the employees have the first-hand information to the products that we produce or the services that we produce. So what can we do? How can we engage the employees to that capacity? And also in the next slide, you talk about the benefits of quality circles. We talk about the benefits of slide 29. Slide 29. Anyway, you have gone ahead. Yeah, so some of the benefits of quality circles, you talk about improved quality, cost reduction, enhanced employee morale, and higher productivity. Yeah, so to the current slides, we talk about the Taguchi methods. So Taguchi came up with a method in which he could determine the loss that an organization could bear in a scenario whereby they derail from the initial target. So what is the loss that that can occur if we do not meet the required target? So that's what the Taguchi method is all about. So in the next slide, we look at the function. He came up with a function that highlights, quantifies the cost of deviating from the target performance levels. So every organization has an initial target performance level, what they want to achieve. What is the intended goal? What is the intended objective? Right? So if they do achieve that goal, then it's beneficial for the organization. But what happens if the organization strays from achieving that particular target performance level? So if that happens, then what is the cost that is implicated on the organization? So that's what the Taguchi quality loss function is all about. And the next slide. Yeah. So if you have time, I think you can also go through the loss function and you see what happens to say if you go beyond the set target, what happens, and if you're on target, what happens, and what happens also if you exceed the initial target. So thank you very much for your time. I believe we have been enlightened as far as total quality management is concerned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And for our participant, if you have any questions for the speaker, please add them to the chat or you can raise your hand. Yeah, we have a question, sure. I already read in the Zoom chat. Hello?
Yeah, so I think we have a question from, is it Jersey? The question is, some companies claim to implement total quality management action, and what are they in implementation, and how can they be avoided? Yeah, so in regards to the implementation of quality management, not fully understand what TQM is. They may not have the right personnel who has maybe majored in total quality management issues, or at times they may also fail to understand the needs of the customer. Because before you produce a product or a service, you are to understand what are the needs of the customer. What are the needs of the customer? What do they need? What do they want? And from there, you can easily come up with a total quality management system that better revolves around the needs of the customer. So if you neglect the needs of the customer, then how can you produce goods of a certain quality? Right, so that's also very, very, very important. You can have a well-trained personnel that handles issues of quality, and at the same time to understand the needs of the said customer. And also, I think we have a question from Selo. Is there a point where investing too much in quality improvement leads to diminishing returns in customer satisfaction? How can businesses identify this threshold? So in regards to this one, you can have total quality management systems that can also analyze for you. A data analysis, you look at your initial, for example, you can come up with maybe even a time series analysis to say, from this period of time, we have invested in quality management. How has this satisfied the needs of the customers? And to what extent does it diminish as far as customer satisfaction is concerned? So I think with analyzing your data over a period of time, you can easily come up with a threshold, because threshold may be different for each and every organization, right? So I think that's very, very important. So different organizations will have different thresholds. So we cannot generalize to say, at this point, you would have attained a threshold. But however, you can analyze your data as an organization to see where the threshold comes about. Thank you very much. Any other question?
Yes, sure, one again.
So we have another question which says, are there any industries or business models where TQM is less effective or impractical? If so, what alternatives should these businesses consider? Are there any industries or business models where TQM is less effective or impractical? If so, what alternatives should these businesses consider? Yeah, so as I said, I would not, we cannot rule out the practicality of the TQM models or TQM initiatives. The models are as fictive as how maybe you've analyzed your data in regards to that particular industry. Because industries might have maybe a particular goal or maybe objective. For example, if you're functioning in the tourism industry, what is the whole essence of tourism? What are you trying to achieve, right? So if you better understand to say, in this industry, I think customers are looking for better results as far as tourism is concerned. So your model should be based around that. What is your industry looking for, right? It only becomes impractical if you do not have the right data. If you do not have the right data. What are you trying to achieve as an organization or as companies in that particular industry? So what is your main goal? What is your main objective? So it goes down to what you're trying to achieve as an industry, as well as companies functioning in that particular industry. If you're in the mining aspect, how can TQM also assist you? So your data is very, very important in that regard. So it only becomes impractical depending upon the data that you have. So if you have valid data, valid information, then it's very effective. If you have poor data, it becomes very impractical and very ineffective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. Before I proceed for our participant, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the corner 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, another 1, 2, 3. Thank you for your presentation. Finally, we come to the executive lecture today. We'd like to thank you for Mr. King Mahfuz Chizimba for the wonderful information sharing in knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for our participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with the VST University Malawi. The visiting lecture for today and we appreciate